How's it going, folks? Welcome to this episode of Chillin' with Lo-Fi and doing some D&D things. I'm your friendly neighborhood dungeon master, Lucas, returning with you, hanging out here in the tavern. Thank you so much for joining me. Man, that music is pumping. Bring that down just a hair. All right, so for those of you wondering what is on the docket tonight for this lovely evening that we're going to be spending some time together, well, let me direct you to somewhere that you can find that information out. So, I recently set up a Discord channel that I will be updating and putting most of my content, at least, just the, where you can find it kind of stuff in there. So if you are curious about, keeping updated with the community, and seeing what I'm doing and maybe want to reach out to me if that is the case, go ahead and at the very bottom of my Twitch channel here, as I have it pulled up on there, if you click that button that says Discord, that'll send you directly to the channel. You can then follow me on there, and like I said, there's going to be updates in there when I go live, depending on what kind of stream I'm doing, be it my first 15 show, or if I'm doing lo-fi and D&D, and maybe some other things down the line once I get some things together. So finally got that set up. I've been kind of sitting on that one for a while, but that's where we are now. For what we're going to be doing tonight, well, we got a couple things. So we'll be excuse me, as you can hear, I'm still dealing with a bit of a persistent cough. Got sick about a month ago, still dealing with that. I got some tea though, so that's gonna be what I'm snacking on tonight, what I'm quaffing. Interesting enough, this is actually a mug or a tumbler, I guess, that my players from one of my games got me. It's etched and says Dungeon Master and has a dragon eye and a little D20 on there. So it's lovely, and it keeps everything super hot to the point where I burn my lips constantly while drinking this. So thank you so much, Molly and Lori, for that. That was very kind of them. But on to what we're working on tonight. So we have to go over the most recent 1D&D Unearthed Arcana, the Cleric and Species listing. We're going to be filling out the survey tonight because I have not done that with this one. And I will preface this by saying I was going to do the same thing that Ted from Nerd Immersion did, where he goes in, fills out the survey beforehand, and then basically walks his viewers through that. I thought that was a great idea. I was going to do the same thing. Unfortunately, while I was filling it out just before this, I was at the very last question. I went to hit back so I could start going and get back to the beginning so I could have all my answers typed out, and it submitted the survey. So I went back through, selected all of the options that I did, and then I just left the comment fields blank. So I'll just explain my reasonings in there and kind of what I already put. So that'll be something we'll discuss later. And then we're also going to be discussing two products. Well, one product that I have, which is the D&D Adventure Club. This is the quick start guide. We're going to be going over this and comparing it to something that one of the other viewers, one of my players in P5, mentioned to me the other day. Something I actually forgot that I backed on Kickstarter, which is a one-shot kind of book. It's called One Shot Wonders. So we're gonna kind of compare how the two of them could be used, what their benefits and or what their pros and cons are, and how each one should could be utilized. I already said that. So First, though, we need to talk. I know this is not like a birds and the bees kind of a thing. This is more of the legalese kind of thing. So for those of you that may not know out there in the community, I know that right now we only got, one person watching, but if you're watching this video after the fact, right now on December 30th, 2022, Dungeons and Dragons and the future of the homebrew and community content, ecosystem that has been established and fostered over the past 7-8 years that 5th edition has been going on is potentially in jeopardy. And what I'm referring to is recently there was a fireside chat that was put out by the Hasbro Corporation, where the CEO of D&D and Wizards of the Coast in general made a comment that Dungeons and Dragons is vastly under-monetized, and they had plans to address that. And something that was kind of going along with that is something called the OGL, or the Open Gaming License. What that is it's essentially a license that was established back in 2000 by Wizards of the Coast that allows people to make content for D&D utilizing references to the system that has been established through what's called the SRD, the System Reference Document. And unfortunately, Wizards of the Coast is going to attempt to change the OGL and update it. They claim it's an update, but you literally can't update the OGL because it is a persistent document. It in itself makes it permanent. And this is going to cause a lot of ripples in the community if what they want to do is push forward. Now, I'm not a legal expert, would never claim to be, and I don't truly understand every single aspect of all of this. So I basically want to voice my opinion and offer you the resources to go and find this information on your own and do your own research on it. So I'm going to be including links in the chat here in just a moment. Why is my camera now fogging out? There we go. So I'm going to be including links here in the chat out to what I'm referring to. And I want you guys to take this seriously and look into this. The main part that is the issue for a lot of the community members is that the OGL is supposed to be open to all content creators, and it basically stands that whatever you create can be used in perpetuity with the systems, with the D&D systems. What they're trying to do is they are trying to make it so that if you are making more than $50,000 a year on any amount, on any content related to D&D, that you have to report those earnings to Wizards of the Coast. And if you are making over $750,000 a year, that you have to start paying royalties to Wizards of the Coast. Basically, it's a cash grab. This goes against the spirit of the OGL, which is actually why they have to update it, why they have to change it. It is not an update. It's not, a revision. It has to be a new OGL because you cannot change the OGL. Again, it is persistent. So the first link that I'm going to include here, and I am going to include this on my YouTube page in the description, so it will be down in the description when you are watching this, if you're watching it after the fact. But this first link is to D&D Beyond, where they talk about the OGL, the SRD, and what changes they are doing. There is a wonderful YouTuber by the name of Rule of Law who recently put out an excellent video explaining what the details of that link that I just shared mean for the community. So check that out. And the next two links that I'm going to be putting up is from somebody that I admire greatly, Michael Shea of Sly Flourish, the Lazy DM. He recently put out a video on his Lazy D&D talk show where he talked about this and linked out to an article that he will be continuing to update as changes to this whole situation present itself. So keep an eye on those links. Share them, Michael Shea has been in the community for many years. He has a wealth of knowledge for DMs and players, and with this, he has gone through the original OGL when they changed it to the GSL, the game system license, I believe, and then back to the OGL. So please check those out, give them your viewerships. They are a wealth of knowledge and will help you better understand the situation. The bottom line that I have with all of this is we as a community need to stand up for an open D&D. The OGL means open. That is what we need. So if you have the opportunity on Twitter, on Twitch, YouTube, Instagram, Snapchat, wherever you may be on social media, Facebook, please share this image right here. Hashtag OpenD&D. It is a call to action to get Wizards of the Coast to understand that we are not going to just sit by and allow them to make this game and community that we cherish so much into just a cheap cash grab. We understand that it's a business, but at the same time, it is very important to establish that the community is not going to be beholden to these predatory practices, because that's really all they are. So like I said, please check out those links that I include. Michael Shea from Sly Flourish is an amazing wealth of information when it comes to D&D. I have his book. It's where is it? Right here. So I have a physical copy of his book, which is rare. I don't generally buy physical copies of books, but The Return of the Lazy Dungeon Master is something that I have sat through and read through. It's about how to be a better DM, how to be a faster DM. And I have a bunch of his books online as well. So he's a wealth of knowledge, as well as the channel Rule of Law. He plays D&D and he is a lawyer, so he actually knows more of the legalese and the jargon that is included with this stuff. So again, check them out, give them your patronage. They will be the best sources. I simply want to be the messenger today. So, with that said, I'm going to keep this on screen during this whole stream. And without further ado, why don't we go ahead and jump into our first kind of point tonight, and that is discussing the recent UA that was put out for 1D&D. There we go. Good. We got everything lined up. So, the most recent Unearthed Arcana that was put out was Clerics and Revised Species. So, one thing that I want to touch on before we really jump into this is the fact that they are redefining the word race. I believe that it is somewhere in this first page, I believe. Where is it? Shoot, I can't remember. Can't remember where it is. Let's see. Species. By species. You know what? Actually, no, I don't even think it's in here. I think it was a post on D&D Beyond. But something that something that Wizards is looking to do is changing and revising the term race to species. I personally stand against this. Not that I have any issue with them moving away from the term race. I understand that there's a lot of connotations that go along with that term. So that's understandable that they may want to separate themselves for that. I just personally think species is a bad term. I don't think it fits with the high fantasy theme of D&D. Personally, if it was my choice, I would say we would go with ancestry instead of race, and lineages instead of sub-races. Actually, we'll talk about that whenever we go into the survey, because they ask that question in there. So I wanted to touch on that before we really jump into this. But with that, go ahead and scroll down into here, into the cleric. So, much like they did with the most recent Unearthed Arcana, as you can see over here, with the expert classes, they redesigned the Bard, the Ranger, and the Rogue, and kind of gave them a makeover a little bit. That is what they're doing now with the Cleric. Now, it is a bit interesting that they're introducing this one first, and instead of introducing it with the Priest class group, but I think there is a reason for this. And I think the reason is because unlike these other ones where a Bard, a Ranger, and a Rogue, historically, if we look up in here, so Bard, Ranger, and Rogue. So a Bard got their college at 3rd level, a Ranger got their archetype at 3rd level, and a Rogue got their archetype at 3rd level. And that's what we saw with the expert class. You get your subclass at 3rd level. Now, the cleric, on the other hand, got their divine domain at 1st level. Yes, there we go. Moving on from race. That's the one I'm referring to. So thank you for that. So this particular change is pretty drastic. To change your to change from having your subclass starting at 1st level to now jumping it up to 3rd level. And I understand that Wizards wanted to have it so that they were all kind of lining up, so that everybody got, you know, their subclass at 3rd level. You got your feat at 4th, and then you get your next subclass at 6th, your next subclass at 10th, and your last one at 14th. Everybody gets their epic boon at 20. Unlike the previous one where, a warlock and a warlock and a sorcerer and a cleric all started out with their abilities at 1st level. Somebody like a wizard got it at 2nd, and then you had some getting it at 3rd. And in fact, I'm going to pull up a document here. We'll let me see which one it was. Actually just had it up a little bit ago, and I closed it out. I meant to leave it up. Here we go. So this is a document that I put together that shows, where you got your different abilities. Let me zoom in there. So as you can see where the X's are, this is where classes got their subclass features. So you can see on here, a cleric, sorcerer, and warlock got them at 1st level. Bard or wizard and druid got them at 2nd, and everyone else got them at 3rd. This meant that clerics, druids, sorcerer, or this meant really clerics, sorcerer, and warlocks were really good for min-maxing players and for character builds, because you could take a level 1 dip into something and gain some good benefits out of that. Now what we're seeing is, as I have it down here, where everybody is getting your subclass at 3rd, 6th, 10th, and 14th. You're getting your feats at 8, 4, 8, 12, and 16. We haven't seen the fighter yet, because as we all know, the fighter does get, I don't know why I have it don't have it listed on there, but the fighter actually does get more ability score improvements. So a fighter actually gets an ability score improvement at 6 as well as at 14th. So I don't know why I didn't have it listed like that, but that is a thing. So we'll see if the fighter actually gets updated when they do the warrior class group, and then everybody gets their capstone at 18 and the epic boon at 20. And that's what we're seeing with this. It's the same structure. Now, as we go through here, we're going to see a lot of changes that have come with the cleric. Let me close these out. So let me, yeah, I'm going to have those on for a reason. Okay, so past the domains, because obviously we're not getting those at first level, we're going to move on to Channel Divinity. So instead of getting Channel Divinity at level 2, you now get that at level 1. So that is in itself already a little bit of a buff. And one of the things that they added with this is that instead of it being, an amount of times based on what level you are. So first level, you get 1 use, 6th level, you get 2, and 18, you get 3 uses. This is now actually based on your proficiency bonus. So you get a number of uses per day equal to your proficiency bonus, which is really nice because that means you start with 2 and that goes up to 3 when you reach 5th level. So you're already on a bit of a curve. And they have now introduced a really cool ability called Divine Spark. Essentially, you get to heal or deal damage equal to your proficiency bonus in D8s. I really like this because it offers you a use of your Channel Divinity, maybe if you're out of spell slots or if you're not within range of somebody. So it's, 30 feet, you can either heal somebody or deal damage. I think this is good across the board for all clerics. Turn Undead has kind of changed a little bit. So whereas before it kind of gave you the terminology of what this effect does, where it can't take reactions, it can only dash, and it can't move close to you. This is now inflicting the dazed condition. So we scroll down to the bottom. We can see that the dazed condition is that while dazed, you can move or take an action, but not both, and you can't use bonus actions or reactions. So it's very similar to what we already have. It just now has a term. Personally, I really like this. As a DM, this means that being that is now a condition, I could impose that onto a player. You can essentially say, hey, you're dazed. That means you can move or act, and you can't use reactions and you can't use bonus actions. I like that opportunity because having extra conditions that you can kind of tack on here and there means that you're not just having to deal damage. Incapacitating and stunning is brutal to players because it's taking them out of initiative, essentially, if they fail those saves. And this is at least giving them 2 options: move or act, and that's it. So it's not taking them out entirely, but it is a substantial threat. On top of that, I also think that it makes players use their abilities that say take away a bad condition. If you have something that helps remove a condition, you're going to be using that more often if you're throwing this condition in. All right, so spell casting, that's basically the same thing. You're just pulling from the divine spell list now. You get to replace them at a long rest. Nothing has really changed in here. So you're just still basing everything off of when you wake up, you get to pick your spells. What they have changed, though, is Holy Order. So now this is kind of like a cleric fighting style, and there's 3 different flavors. You have Protector, which gives you proficiency with martial weapons and heavy armor training. Scholar, that gives you 2 skill proficiencies, and you get to add your wisdom bonus to those 2. And Thaumaturge, which gives you a free cantrip that you can use. And you can also regain your Channel Divinity when you finish a short rest. I really like these. I think they add a little bit of versatility depending on what kind of cleric you want to be. I could see Protector working really well with a war cleric. You know, somebody who is out there on the battlefield. You want that heavy armor protection and those heavier or those more martial weapons. Scholar would be excellent for a lore or an Arcana bard, or like a, you know, an order bard, something like that. Somebody who is more focused on their skills. And Thaumaturge, again, kind of an Arcana one. If you're wanting to play more of the spellcaster cleric, Thaumaturge is great because you're getting those uses of Channel Divinity back, but you're also just getting that free cantrip. One thing that I will point out, and you'll see it throughout here, there's places where they refer to cantrips as 0 level spells. It's kind of bugging me. Like, it doesn't. I think cantrip is at least known enough that they should use that. 0 level spells just have like a weird way of rolling off the tongue. That's just more of a personal thing. Okay, so 3rd level, you get your subclass. 4th level, your feat. Again, standardizing that stuff. On to 5th level, Smite Undead. So, as we look over here, at 2nd level, you had the ability to turn undead. And as we scroll down, at 5th level, you get Destroy Undead. This is where the cleric starts to bug me. This is where the new cleric starts to bug me. So in the previous editions, it was any undead of CR half or lower is instantly destroyed. You have an entire field of zombies surrounding you. Guess what? They fail their saves. They're just destroyed. Now, they take an amount of damage equal to your proficiency bonus in D8s, and it's radiant damage. Now, if we look at skeletons, that means that, you know, okay, they have 13 hit points. 3d8 over here on any dice is on average 13 points of damage. So that means you can probably kill a skeleton in most cases when you use this. But a zombie who is likewise challenge rating 1/4 has 22 hit points. So you're not going to be killing this zombie unless you're rolling in the top 2 percentile of that 3d8. I am not a huge fan of this, mainly as somebody who has played a character, because I feel like this takes away the gravitas, you know, the power of Destroy Undead, where you could feel like a total badass having a horde of zombies coming at you. You snap your fingers and they're just wiped out. Now I get it. This is Channel Divinity, which means you now have more uses of it. And because of that, they have to make it slightly weaker. Because if you have a really powerful thing you can do once a day and you want to change it to you have it multiple times a day, you have to make it a little weaker. And I get that. I just really liked Destroy Undead a lot more than I like Smite Undead as a player. Now, as a DM, I am all for this. Oh, the price is lower. Well, I appreciate that. Thank you so much. Let me go ahead and yeah, no thank you. No thank you. So as a player, I'm not a huge fan of it. As a DM, I'm all for this. There has been plenty of times where I've run games with clerics in them, and those clerics just stomp on whoever it is I put up against them, which sucks. It very much sucks at times, because when you have those situations playing out, you know, you do end up feeling a little bit disheartened at some points, where it's like, oh, I got all these zombies, I got all these skeletons, I got all these things, and you throw them at them and then they're just wiped out. At least now, you know, it's some damage. So I'm conflicted on this. I am generally more of a DM, so it is more of a benefit, but I am also min-maxing SOB when it comes to being a player. So I'm conflicted. What I'm not conflicted about is the 7th level ability of Blessed Strikes. Now, the reason why I have so many subclasses pulled up on the left here is because I want to point out this 8th level ability. So as you can see here, this is where you get your Divine Domain feature. Now, every basic subclass for a cleric, Death, Grave, Knowledge, Life, Light, Nature, Order, Tempest, Trickery, and War, all have essentially the same thing. At 8th level, you get to add some amount of damage to a weapon or a cantrip. Grave, Knowledge, and Light get your Wisdom modifier to cantrips. Everyone else gets an extra D8 to weapon attacks, and that goes up at 14th level to 2D8. This has always been something that, like, I've always known they had this. Until I actually sat down and was like reviewing this UA, I didn't realize how they varied so much. You know, Death makes sense getting Necrotic, and Life makes sense getting Radiant, but like, yeah, Nature getting a choice of them, Order getting Psychic, we got Thunder and Poison, and then like of the same, you know, type that you have. Now, it is just that at 7th level, clerics, when they cast a cantrip or attack with a weapon, you deal an extra 1d8 radiant damage. This can be done once per turn, which is, you know, still kind of the same thing except for the potent spell casting. But I like this. I like this change to it. And the reason why I like it is because everyone was getting it anyway. Every cleric was getting this ability at some point. So taking it off of the subclass features and putting it on the class at large, I feel is a better use of, you know, of the class itself. So now that I did that, we can go ahead and take all the subclasses off of here and just continue on. So again, I really like Blessed Strikes. I think it is, I like the versatility with it. At 9th level, or at 8th level, you get another feat. Again, we know that. 9th level, you get a second Holy Order feature. So, you know, if you took Protector first, you could take Scholar or Thaumaturge. Personally, if I was playing a cleric, I would probably focus more on Protector and Thaumaturge, considering that extra cantrip and getting Channel Divinity back on a short rest. That is just ridiculously powerful. Well, actually, you know what? It's funny. If I was playing my my Trickery Cleric, Ubi Foe, I would actually take the Scholar and Thaumaturge. So, you know what? I like it. I like the versatility that comes with it. Again, these are kind of like fighting styles, but for the priests. And we'll see if the druid and the paladin get something like that down the line. All right, so on to level 11, Divine Intervention. So Divine Intervention got moved from 10th level to 11th level, so you have to wait one more level to get that. But it is now, the main difference between it, pretty much everything's the same. The main difference is before it was once every 7 days. Now it's once every 2d6. So you're looking at an average of 7, but you know, could be 2 days, it could be 12. You don't know. You got to roll for that one now. I'm kind of ambivalent to that. You know, it is what it is. But at 18th level, that time is reduced to 2d4. Which that's actually pretty nice. That, you know, moves the average to 5, you know, still minimum of 2 obviously, but max of 8. So and it still auto succeeds. So I actually think that the Divine Intervention improvement is pretty nice. Not only are you getting it 2 levels earlier, it still has that auto succeed, and it's also usable more often. So I'm okay with this. So really, when it comes to the cleric at large, except for Destroy Undead changing, these are all decent upgrades to the class in general. I personally feel moving the subclass to 3rd level is a bit off-putting. Again, that comes from me being when I am a player, or if I'm making a character and wanting to take that 1 level dip into a cleric, it kind of sucks. But I understand that WotC is trying to standardize things, so it's like kind of a meh situation. But now I have to move on to the subclass. And hold on to your pants. So, the life domain. When Jeremy Crawford and Todd Kenrick put out their video discussing this, this was brought up. Jeremy Crawford said the life cleric is like the cleric of clerics. They're the one that everybody thinks of, because a lot of people do think of clerics as healing, as the healers of the group, and they are. So when you had the original life cleric, at 1st level, again, a lot of this is based off the fact that you're now getting your subclass at 3rd. At 1st level, you had 3 things. One, you have your domain spells. So you got access to bless and cure wounds. So these are, these are always prepared for you. So they don't count against the number of spells you have. And they're just there. So you had bless and cure wounds at 1st, lesser restoration and spiritual weapon at 3rd, and then moving on, you had beacon of hope, revivify, eventually death ward and guardian of faith, and finally mass cure wounds and raise dead. Now you get different spells that I feel are far more appropriate to what this subclass is. Changing or moving away from bless to prayer of healing, or sorry, not bless, moving away from spiritual weapon to prayer of healing is phenomenal. That is such a more powerful spell and is a life gaining, is a life providing spell. Same with moving away from beacon of hope to mass healing word. Beacon of hope gives you advantage on wisdom saves. Mass healing word heals. It restores your life. Same with guardian of faith and aura of life. One is damage, one is healing, and same with raise dead and greater restoration. One is providing life and relief to your character. The other is granted raising the dead and providing life, but it's necromancy. The spells that they changed to, I feel, fit the subclass far better. And I appreciate that they did that, because this, to me, on here, looks more like generic cleric. That's all this is. These are not the spells that a life cleric takes. These are the spells that literally every cleric takes. I've never known a cleric not to take spiritual weapon, not to take guardian of faith, not to take like any of these spells. Maybe beacon of hope is kind of the, the oddball, but every cleric I know takes these spells. Not every cleric takes these, because these are more specifically tied to the life domain, and I think that's better. But what are we losing with this subclass? Why am I so iffy on this? Well, you're losing your heavy armor proficiency. Now, Lucas, you might say, if you take the Protector Holy Order, you get that back. Yeah, well, guess what? I don't want to have to use up one of my slots for something that I got with a subclass before. Having heavy armor proficiency with a life cleric made it an excellent dip. Disciple of Life also got fucked. This is a very touchy subject for me. The original spell, or the original ability, is when you cast a spell of 1st level or higher to restore hit points to a creature, they gain an additional amount equal to 2 plus the level. Now, it is specifically on the turn you cast the spell. So what does that mean? Well, that means that you can't do the one exploit that a lot of players have done, that Jeremy Crawford stuck by for years in the errata and the Sage advice column, which was if you cast Goodberry, which Goodberry is a 1st level spell that heals for 1 hit point. it would mean that you could restore 2 plus the level. So 4 hit points. D&D Beyond, if you make a character with life, with the life domain and Goodberry, it even adjusts that to 4 for that reason. Now, you can't do that unless you are creating these good berries and shoving them down someone's throat all on that turn. It sucks. It hurts that this was taken away from us. And I get it. It was an exploit. It was never meant to do that. And they just stuck with it because, well, it's how they worded it and they were going to stick by that. But come on. Like, that was a good one for us. You know, why do you got to take that one from us? Oh, man. Yeah, that one hurt. So, on to the next ability, the Channel Divinity. So, Preserve Life is basically the same thing. You get an amount of hit points that you can heal equal to 5 times your level, and you can divide that up to any amount of creatures within 30 feet of you, and you can't heal more than half of their maximum hit points. It's the same thing. What's the downside? You used to get that at 2nd level. Now you get it at 6th. That sucks. Playing as a cleric, your only use of Channel Divinity up until 6th level is the Divine Spark or Turn Undead. Whereas before, you would get a subclass ability at 2nd level. You had more options. At 6th level before, you got Blessed Healer, which is that when you healed someone else, you got some healing. Now you don't get that until 10th. And lastly, and this is the only positive one, is Supreme Healing, which is that you give the maximum amount of healing every time you heal. Supreme Healing is that whenever you heal, instead of rolling for it, you just give them the maximum. That got moved from 17th to 14th, which is good. But here's the reality. Most D&D campaigns never see 14th level. So Supreme Healing being down at 17th and 14th is kind of irrelevant because most campaigns either finish around 12 or 13, maybe they go to 14 and barely ever see anything past 15. So yeah, you might get a few encounters, maybe like one quest with Supreme Healing, but that's about it. So where do I stand on the life domain change? You know, as a spoiler to a 15-year-old movie, going back to Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire, where Harry, Cedric Diggory, Robert Pattinson's character, is killed, and Harry and Cedric come back with the port key, and they're laying in the field, and Amos Diggory comes down and is like, "That's my son, that's my boy," after he's been killed. That's how I feel about the Life Cleric. Like, this was such a powerful class. This was such a good subclass. And you butchered it, WotC. You butchered it. I like the domain spells. You did so good with that. But you fucked with Disciple of Life. Not only is it 3rd level now instead of 1st, you don't get the one exploit that came with it. And everything else is now shoved further away from the core area of where people play D&D, which everybody knows is between 5th level and 10th level. That's where like some of the best abilities are. You fucked with it. You fucked around, and maybe you'll find out. Okay, maybe the surveys will reveal this. I know mine will, because I'm very dissatisfied with this. This subclass used to be good. Now it's rough. But maybe things will be better as we move along. So what's the next thing in this Unearthed Arcana? Well, we're moving on to the species. Now again, I stand by. I'm going to use the term ancestry as we move through this. It's because I want to get that term in my own mouth, and I want everybody out there to know that, hey, I'm not going to use species. It's too futuristic. It's more sci-fi than it is high fantasy. Ancestry. Now that's high fantasy. So, let's look at the let's close out some of these pages I have, and let's look at let's look at the Ardling. So, for those of you that don't remember, let's go back to the first 1D&D Unearthed Arcana, the character origins. And we're going to scroll down here to Ardlings. So, what were Ardlings? Nobody had ever heard of them. This was actually the first time we ever heard of them. Well, they're supernatural beings who are either born on the upper planes or have one or more ancestries, who originated there. So these are animal-headed, angelic celestial figures. The Ardling's ancestral legacies, that's a good term. This determines what animals they look like, and they can come from any of the planes. So they can come from chaotic good, lawful good, or neutral good, being exalted, heavenly, or idyllic, respectively. And what did they get? Well, they got angelic flight. So as a bonus action, you gain a flight speed, but if you're in the air, you will fall. And you can use this a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. That's pretty nice. Get a little flight there. And what's this? Oh, we get some first level, third level, and fifth level spells that you can use once a long rest, and you can also use them with the spell slots you have. That's really nice. Guidance and healing word at third level, that's really good. Light and cure wounds, that's really good. Thaumaturgy and divine favor, not bad, but okay. You can make a really good cleric with these. And then what? You also got resistance to radiant damage. So these are pretty nice. Now, but what does this look like? Well, this looks like an Aasimar. So Aasimar are angelic creatures. Right there. These are celestial champions. They come from the heavens. They're descended from humans with a touch of Mount Celestia. Mount Celestia. I swear to God, that is literally mentioned here. So, what are the Ardlings? They're like the cousins of the Aasimar? We don't know. I mean, the Aasimar get different abilities. They have resistance to both necrotic and radiant damage. And you know what? I'm going to move this over here just for the moment so you can see this. Okay? Ardlings get resistance to radiant only, and Aasimar gets necrotic and resistance. Not only that, you get to heal a creature once per long rest, so that's kind of like cure wounds and healing word in a sense. Plus, it's also a number of hit points equal to your level. So, I mean, once you get up to like level, 15, you're dealing some pretty good healing. The light cantrip, well, shoot, so does heavenly. So that's pretty nice. Oh, wait, what's this? We have 3 different sub-races. We have 3 different lineages. So an Aasimar, somebody who's playing with the ancestry of Aasimar could have the fallen lineage. Well, what do you get with that? Well, you get the ability to create ghostly wings that allow you to frighten people, and it lasts for a minute. Okay. Protector gives you the ability to create incorporeal wings. Would you look at that? You get a 1-minute flight speed as a bonus action and deal extra radiant damage once per long rest. Shoot, that sounds like a slightly more powerful yet limited version of angelic flight. And lastly, Scourge. You can shoot light from your eyes, dealing damage to enemies around you. Now you will say, hey, they recently updated this and they're slightly different. Yeah, guess what? They are. You now get the ability to either get wings, radiant consumption, or the necrotic shroud, and you get this for 1 minute as a bonus action. I believe it is, still once per long rest. But guess what? Everything else is the same. So, what is the Ardling then? Well, it's kind of like a weird bastardized version of the Aasimar. So the community spoke up. They said, hey, WotC, what the hell is this? why is this so much like the Azamar, but it's not? So they said, okay, hey, we're gonna change that. You know what? Let's dig into the animal ancestry aspect of this. Let's make the Ardling ancestry be something more focused on the animal aspect. Okay, cool. So we can give you the climber ability. Well, you get claws, you get a climb speed, and you get extra damage on your unarmed strikes. That's cool. The flyer ability, if you fall 10 feet, you can use your reaction to take no damage, and you get advantage on the jump action. That's pretty cool. Racer, you get the dash action. When you take the dash action, you get a speed increase equal to 10 times your proficiency bonus. Well, shoot, at 5th level, that's 30 extra feet when you dash. And lastly, swimmer, you can hold your breath for an hour and have a swim speed and resistant to cold damage. Okay, those are okay. You also get thaumaturgy, but you can replace that with any divine spell, and proficiency with perception. This isn't bad. Okay, this is talking about celestial animals roaming the beastlands, and many of those having these humanoid forms. So evolving into bipedal forms. Well, that's interesting, but much like the Azamar in the original Ardling, I feel like there's something that's bothering me. What is it? Oh yeah, this is called the Simic fucking hybrid. Okay? Look at this guy. He's got animal parts on him. He's got giant fucking crab claws. These are humanoids, doesn't matter what kind, that magically transform parts of their bodies into animalistic versions. Guess what? They can get wings that allow them to reduce their falling damage by 100 feet. On top of that, they can actually glide 2 feet horizontally for 1 foot dropped. You gain a climbing speed equal to your walking speed. That sounds familiar. It's almost like the climber ability. Well, you might say to yourself, you're not getting that damage up. You're not getting that damage boost. Yeah, you're right. You're just getting the climbing speed. Okay, I'm all right with that. Underwater adaptation, you can breathe air and water, and it's not limited to an hour. Shoot. And you have a swimming speed equal to your walking speed. Damn. The only thing you're not getting with that is cold resistance. But look what you are getting. You're getting dark vision. Ardlings don't have dark vision. You're also getting another adaptation when it comes to 5th level. Okay? You can get 2 grappling appendages, and oh my god, you deal extra damage with them, much like the climber. Carapace, you get a bonus to your AC when you're not wearing heavy armor. Okay, everybody can benefit from that except for really clerics and paladins. An acid spit, you can deal additional damage and it increases with your level. Holy shit, that's almost like the acid splash cantrip that is far weaker, that this is giving you for free. But this is arcane, so clerics don't even get something like that, or the divine don't get anything like that. So what the fuck is the Ardling? I'll tell you what the Ardling is. The Ardling is confused. Okay? That is what the Ardling is. It is WotC trying to add generic animal-headed humanoids into D&D without doing any additional work than they have already done. You want to see some cool animal-headed humanoids? Let's look at the Kenku. Hey, the Kenku, or let's look at the Volo's guide. Or actually, no, we'll do Mordenkainen. Okay, look at that. Kenku have their own abilities. All right, sick. Let's look at the Leonin. Okay, introduced in Mythic Odysseys of Theros. Holy shit. Dark vision, claws, hunter instincts, daunting roar. That's pretty cool. What about the Loxodon? You know, elephant, humanoid. What? Wait. Where's Loxodon? There we go. Introduced in Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica. Elephant humanoids. Man, powerful build. Loxodon Serenity, natural armor, and a trunk, plus keen smell. These are all animal-based humanoid races that get bonuses that make sense for their particular ancestry. Okay? It's not just, well, hey, I want to be a dog-headed character and I also want to fly, because nothing is in here saying that you have to choose these. Nothing is saying that you have to take a bear head if you want to be a climber. You could take a dog head if you want. These are just examples. I don't know. I just think the Ardling is such a weird race slash ancestry, whatever you want to call it. I just think it doesn't know what it wants to be. It's not a Celestial, it's not the cousin to the Azamar, and it is not the cousin to the Simic hybrid. It's just weird. And I don't know what they're going to do with it next. Honestly, they could change it again for all we know. I just don't know what it's trying to be. I think what it wanted to be is it wanted to be the Tiefling equivalent. Okay, because the Tiefling changed in that original UA. Here. So the Tiefling was basically like the same thing when you looked at it. It had the three different legacies. It had you know, additional spells. It had dark vision at least, and it had, you know, an extra spell that it got. That's what it was trying to be. I just don't think it's not meant to be that. So at least that's my opinion. So lastly, onto the Dragonborn. Now, or not lastly, sorry. Next, onto the Dragonborn. So to look at the Dragonborn, we have to look at two things, because they actually just recently changed it in the original Unearthed Arcana that they put out. And this is kind of a response to that. So, Breath Weapon. This was changed again. So, originally, and I want to point out that this is like, there's been multiple changes to this. Okay, where's the other one? Yeah, this is this is the one from the Player's Handbook. So, the original Player's Handbook was that depending on your draconic ancestry, you either had a line or a cone of damage, and that leveled the amount of damage leveled with your character. It was level scale. The one that they put out in the original UA, the damage, it was now just a cone. It was now just a 15-foot cone, and the amount of damage was 1d10 plus your character level. And this could be done a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest, where the original one was once per long or short rest. So how have they changed it? Well, they changed it back to being level scaled. No longer 2d6. So 2d6 is a minimum of 2, an average of 7, and a max of 12. They've changed it to 1d10. But, again, as I said before, when you make something more available, you have to weaken it a little. So before, you could use it once per long or short rest. Now you get it a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus per long rest. Unless you're a group that short rests after every encounter, this is going to be more uses. So because of that, the damage is reduced. 1d10 is a minimum of 1, an average of 6, and a maximum of 10. So how does that balance out with the recent change? Well, I put that together right here. So as you see, on level scaling, this is where when you are, so level scaling is like this: 1d10 when you reach 5th level, it's 2d10. 11th level is 3d10, and 17th level is 4d10. When you do level scaling, your numbers don't move. Your minimum is whatever your die count is, so it's 1, 2, 3, or 4, and your average is just going to be this times 6, because again, 6 is the average of 10, and the max, it's just going to be the multiplication, 4 times whatever your die count is. When you do 1d10 plus your level, like they did in the original Unearthed Arcana, this is automatically bumping up your minimums drastically. And that's because your minimum is 1 plus your level. So at 15th level, the minimum you can do is 16 points of damage. Your averages are also regularly higher. The only time they're not is the moment you switch from whenever it switches from one die to the next, but they are regularly higher. The only drawback to using die plus level instead of level scaling is your maximums suffer until at any point after 5th level. And that's because you're doubling your die pool instead of just adding some static number. But honestly, I would so much rather roll a d10 and add my level than to risk rolling these minimum scores. You know, you have such a variance in here when it comes to rolling multiple dice. You have more chances of rolling low and high, but with this, you have a static number. In my opinion, that to me makes the change that they did worse. I wish they would go with the 1d10 plus your level, because it's better. It's just hands down a better track through the damage. Yes, is the maximum damage lower? Yeah, but guess what? You're never gonna roll max damage. You want the average to be higher. You want the minimum to be higher. Again, having minimum damage higher is better. This is why everyone who has ever played D&D will agree that between a great sword and a great axe being 1d12 is worse than a great sword, because your maximum damage is the same, your average damage is the same, but your minimum damage on a great sword is 2 versus a great axe, which is 1. Hands down, a better spread. But what do you get with that? Well, when they changed it, you know, all you got with the original Dragonborn was you got the breath weapon, you got resistance to your ancestry, and that was it. You know, that was okay. But a lot of people complained they didn't have dark vision, because dragons have dark vision. So guess what? In the old one and in this one, they get dark vision now, which is sick. They also still get that draconic resistance, which is good. But now you get draconic flight. So basically, at 5th level, you use whatever your energy is: fire, lightning, acid, cold, or poison, and you create spectral wings. You create magical wings that allow you to fly. So this is, you know, you gain a flight speed for 10 minutes, equal to your movement speed, or to your walking speed, and this is once per long rest. This is hands down better than this flying ability, bar none. It is also better than the original angelic flight ability, considering this was for one bonus action. So this is just for, you know, just that, like, that's all you can be. And granted, you had multiple uses of this, and this is only once, but this is still you know, for 10 minutes, you have a flight speed. I think it's better, in my opinion. All right, so lastly, I don't think Goliath was included in this. No, it wasn't. So lastly, we're going to move on to the Goliath. And I have choice words about the Goliath as well, and I kind of torn. So if we look at the original Goliath, you had proficiency in athletics, you had a reaction to reduce damage by 1d12 plus your constitution modifier once per long or short rest, and you could double your carrying capacity, or you were a size larger with your carrying capacity, and resistance to cold damage. So pretty simple. Even the monsters of the multiverse, even though they changed it, they just kind of combined powerful build and natural athlete into this little giant ability, but it's the same thing. Proficiency with athletics, count as one size larger, resistance to cold damage, reduce damage with stone's endurance. So what do you get now? Well, now, this one, sorry, Monsters of the Multiverse also upped your ability, your uses of stone's endurance. Before it was once per long or short rest. It was updated to a number of times equal to your proficiency bonus. So that actually maintained into what they added into this, which is where you now get to pick your lineage. And I'm calling it lineage because Goliath is the ancestry and giant lineage is the sub race. Okay, it's the sub ancestry. That's your lineage. But now you get more options. You know, this is really cool. I actually really like this. This is kind of like that Azamar thing where depending on which one you pick, or, you know, an elf, or, you know, like halflings and dwarves, they get those sub races. So with this, you get a bonus action teleport. You get to add fire damage. You get to add cold damage and reduce speed. You get to knock a creature prone. Their stone endurance, that's still the same thing. Or you can get a reaction to deal thunder damage. So I like that. I like that you now get a little bit more versatility with stone's endurance. It's the same amount of uses and you get options now. So what else do you get? Well, powerful build. You have advantage on saves made to end grapple and count as one size larger. Well now, would you look at that? They changed Little Giant to powerful build, but they took away your proficiency with the athletic skill. Now, I don't know about you. I would rather on any day take proficiency in athletics over advantages on saving throws to end the grappled condition. You have taken something that was useful in all kinds of different situations and made it hyper specific to being a saving throw to end a grapple. It's bullshit. Little Giant was better. Powerful build in this new form sucks. And then we're going to go on to large form, and I saved this one for last for a reason. And that is because this is just Giant's Might from the Rune Knight Fighter subclass, but weird. Because it's at 5th level, it's a bonus action to grow large, and it lasts for 10 minutes, during which you have advantage on strength checks and your speed increases by 10. And it's once per long rest. So once a day, you can grow large, you don't gain any bonus, you get advantage on strength checks and you move 10 feet faster compared to what Giant's Might is, which is you grow larger, you have advantage on both strength checks and saving throws, and your attacks deal an additional 1d6 damage. Now this only lasts for a minute, and granted, Giant's Might is more meant for combat, but what is this meant for? Who is this for? What are you, where do you need 10 minutes of being large and advantage on strength checks and an increase in speed? Also, you can only do it once a day. It's just kind of weird. I just think in general, like, the Goliath is just, it's like, this is great. These different lineages, those are great. And then this is weird, and this is bad. So it's like, what's up, Enforcer? So it's just so weird, like, how these work together. So I don't know. There's a lot with this that, like, I feel could have been done better. So that brings us to the end of this. Well, it actually doesn't. Okay. There is still a little bit more in here. Should be broken. I would honestly say, I mean, I do get that they would be, RPing it somehow, but seeing how my players have used, seeing how Aaron has used Giant's Might with his Woo character, it is always often more for the damage output and for also the action economy, because you get more space around. So making my first Warlock. Hey, that's awesome, man. I played a Warlock. He was great. So what are the other things that have changed? Well, some of the spells have changed. So Aid, as I pull it up over here. So Aid went from being timed, where it only lasts for 8 hours, to just being instantaneous. It's the same amount of it's the same amount of temporary hit points. But now it's 6 creatures instead of only 3. So I think this is a far better version of the spell. I'm confused by the invocations and the making of a patron. Well, you need to work with Enforcer. You need to work with your DM in building your patron, because your DM should have like some impact in helping design your patron, because one of the things about warlocks is, unlike clerics and paladins and druids who can worship, anyone can worship a god, they generally don't have a lot of say-so with their gods. Warlocks constantly talk with their patron. They have communication with them. So the DM rotates for the game. You have to get your DMs on board with who your patron is, or discuss with them about not having the patron have like any affiliation. One of the things you have to understand when it comes to your patrons is that they have an active role in your character and their story. So you need to work with the DMs on that. Invocations, though. So the thing to know about invocations is they're essentially since warlocks only get 2 spells per long rest, until you get to level 11. So you can only cast 2 spells per long rest. You're more reliant on having access to your invocations, which some of them will either give you access to free spells, or they'll give you benefits and buffs. So for example, on the screen here, Agonizing Blast, that is that your Eldritch Blast cantrip, which is the quintessential warlock cantrip. There's no reason you shouldn't take it. Agonizing Blast buffs the damage by the charisma modifier, which is the spellcasting ability score for the warlock. So something like that is something that you would want to take if you want to be better at casting those Eldritch Blasts. But something like Armor of Shadows lets you cast Mage Armor at will. Beast Speech gives you Speak with Animals at will. But then you also have stuff like Aspect of the Moon, which is that you no longer need to sleep. Cloak of Flies allows you to surround yourself with flies, and that can intimidate creatures. Like the lore behind it was considering a Pact of the Blade to go for a sniper kind of build. You can do that. There's actually, if you look up, what's his name? It's gonna pop up on here. Sounds like build your own. It kind of is. In a sense, it kind of is. When it comes to playing a warlock, you have to know, like, you don't have a ton of spells at your fingertips, so you kind of have to like reinforce that with your invocations. But it is kind of like little bits and pieces here and there just to build your own thing. But Monkey DM is doing that. Can't even think of it. The Eldritch Hunt. Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt. In there, he actually did a Pact of the Trigger, which allows your patron to be a hex gun, and it has a sniper form. So that might be something to look into. If you go look up Monkey DM's Steinhardt's Guide to the Eldritch Hunt, he has that information on his Patreon. I don't know if you could still do a late pledge to get access to that, but that is a thing. Coming from Wizard attempting to go more... I mean, Hexblade is the martial warlock. Wait, are you multi-classing from Wizard into Warlock? Or did you have a Wizard and now you're playing a Warlock? Because that kind of changes things. Because if you're multi-classing from Wizard into Warlock, you are what is that? Mad? Multi-ability score dependent. Oh no, you just normally play a Wizard. Yeah, okay. Yeah. Warlocks, so here's the reality. Warlock is the class, if you really want to be hyper specific in designing your class and also role playing them very heavily, because again, the way that warlocks are designed is they have a very personal tie to their patron, and that your DM should be playing that up, but you don't get a lot of spells, and you're focusing on having to like build everything around what you want it to be. One of my players in the Rhyme game is playing a Celestial Warlock, and a lot of the stuff that he takes is more based around his role-playing stuff. But when I played a Warlock, I was taking more stuff that was damage output, because that's what my character was doing. Vastly different characters, even though it's the same class. New character I'm making to fill in for the yeah, I don't know. I mean, hey, you know what? I mean, Warlocks, plenty of people play them. Maybe you'll find something that really works for you. Like I said, I just generally feel like Warlocks are oftentimes more limited, and especially compared to a Wizard, you know, if you're used to playing a Wizard where you have, you know, like 4 first level slots, 3 second, 3 third, and so on, and you're constantly casting spells, playing a Warlock can be a little defeating. I was thinking of a long range weapon fighter. Well, again, if you go Pact of the Trigger, it does have that sniper form. But you'd have to look that information up. You could also go onto the website that I'm using and go into the Homebrew Manager, and it is in there. I just cannot explain. I'll keep. That's all good, man. Hey, don't worry about distracting. I'm glad to chat with you about it. Like I said, go look up Monkey DM's Pact of the Trigger. I want to put this in the chat there. Go look that up. Go look up Monkey DM, and that's from the Eldritch Hunt. book supplement that he's going to be putting out. It is available out there, especially if you sign up for it. I know Stacy put that you can still do a late pledge, so that should still garner you access to that information. But I mean, hey, if I will say, I have built a sniper character that does Eldritch Blast like no one's business. When you get into the invocations, that's kind of the whole thing, because Agonizing Blast and Eldritch Spear. So Eldritch Spear makes Eldritch Blast range 300 feet. You then take Spell Sniper, which allows you to ignore half cover and 3/4 cover, and the spell's range is doubled. So even just this as a basis, or this as a base, Eldritch Blast would have a range of 600 feet. If you then take the Pact of the Trigger, your ranged spells cast through this have their range doubled again. So that would range it out to 1,200 feet. So yeah, 100% worth it. So for patron, do me and the DM build that, or me? Okay, so if you're doing the Pact of the Genie, you know, figure out what kind you want to do. You said you wanted to do Earth, so that would be the Tao. What your DM needs to figure out as a warlock, you're getting your magic powers because your patron is giving you those abilities. But patrons don't just give you that trigger, that long range Ultra Blast is ridiculous. But your patrons aren't just going to give you magic and abilities for nothing. You have to do stuff for them. Now, what that is up to your DM. So an Earth Genie might have you, wanting to make temples for them. Like it says in here, noble genies are varied in their motivations, but most are arrogant and wield powers that rival lesser deities. So maybe yours wants to be worshipped. Okay, a Tao, an earth elemental, as the information that's in here, they dwell in complexes of twisting tunnels and glittering ore-veined caverns. Okay, they may want you to provide them with expensive gemstones. They might require that once a week or once a day, you have to sacrifice a gemstone worth 25 gold to them. So that means that you would have to hunt for those, search around, barter and buy, trade, do what you can to get them. Because like it says, a Tao might grind powdered gems and gold over its food to heighten its eating experience. So maybe that's what your Tao wants. Again, that's really up to you and your DM. When I played a warlock, my patron was an angel, and he wanted me to spread the light. So I had to bring happiness and joy, and I had to rid the world of darkness. The player in my rhyme game, his patron requires him to befriend as many companions as he can, and to find his horse. That's like his main quest. I also made a warlock at one point that was a chef has a fiend patron that wanted him to feed him food. So he had to go and hunt all these exotic animals in order to make these really crazy food dishes for the patron. And if he didn't, he would take fire damage every day when he would wake up, or psychic damage. That was up to the DM. So the idea in my head was the character was in space prison for 20 years, but met the genie who made a deal for his freedom and helped him escape with the Pact of the Blade. I mean, it's not a bad start. Again, what you kind of have to do is from there work with your DM to figure out, like, the Pact of the Blade, your blade, you know, that's going to be a, you know, that's going to be a very integral part of your warlock. You know, Pact of the Blade is that, you know, this is, you know, this is a weapon that you can draw upon. So that might have like earthly designs to it, or it might look like a gemstone encrusted blade, or, you know, like a cudgel or something like that. But your patron might still desire something, and he might hold it over your head of like, you know, hey, I helped you escape jail. I can put you right back in there. You know, I can put you I can dig you a prison into the ground if you don't find these gems for me and make these weekly sacrifices. Again, that's something you have to discuss with your DM though, because that's really between the two of you. It has to be something reasonable that can be managed with the campaign, because your DMs are going to have to play into that. It also picture the weapon. So here's the thing to consider. Technically speaking, the Pact of the Blade is a melee weapon. You can later on get an invocation, that I believe allows a little bit of diversity. Improved pack weapon. Yeah. Okay, yeah. So here's what you would have to do. If you wanted it to be a crossbow, you would have to take the Pact of the Blade at 3rd level, and since you cannot take an invocation that you don't have the prerequisite for by the book, you'd have to discuss with your DM if you are allowed to get an invocation that you can't technically take, because you would not be able to get the invocation that lets you use a crossbow until 5th level at that point. So it's not impossible, but again, talk with your DM about what limitations they allow you when it comes to the patron, because again, the Pact of the Trigger, which is the, you know, which is the patron, this, instead of being a hex blade or a genie, because that's, you know, you're talking about a genie, and, you know, I'm kind of talking about a hex blade patron or a trigger. You know, this is one where you could have, you know, your crossbow as this thing. But again, if you're going with genie, you need to take the Pact of the Blade and the improved pact weapon at 5th level, unless your DM is willing to allow you to take it earlier in order to prep for that. Personally, as a DM, I would not have an issue with that. If one of my players was like, hey, I'm making him to use a crossbow, can I take improved pact weapon now and let it proc whenever I hit 3rd level? Yeah, I'd be fine with that. I kind of did something like that with one of my players in my Rising of the Undying campaign. Could you cast Eldritch Blast through an empty crossbow? Not technically, but the thing to understand about Eldritch Blast is that it's only verbal and somatic, so you don't need a material cost. You just need one free hand, but you can talk to your DM about that. I personally had the player that was playing a warlock in my Rising of the Undying campaign. He was a Hexblade warlock, but he was a hex gunner, so his patron was his gun, and he was able to cast Eldritch Blast through his gun. Trigger wasn't around whenever we did that one, so you know, if it was, it's honestly what he would have had. But you know, that's more flavoring. Technically, as long as you have a free hand, you could do that. If your DM really wants to be a bit of a prick, he could make you take the Warcaster feat, which is that you can perform somatic when you have a weapon in your hand. But that's up to your DM, unfortunately. You know, you'd have to take Warcaster by the book. An invocation that lets you turn invisible. Is it this one? No, that's so you can see invisible. Trickster's Escape. That's freedom of movement. One with shadows. Okay. There we go. Yeah, that one's a prerequisite of level 5, so you have to be at least level 5. So now keep in mind that's also that if you're in dim light or darkness, so you can't just turn invisible in the middle of the day. You do have to be in dim light or darkness. All right. So I'm gonna go back to finishing up discussing and 6th level. Oh yeah, I mean if you're 6th level then you're fine. Yeah, if you're 6th level then you can basically build them out however you want, because most of that stuff is relying on you getting to 5th level. So yeah, you're fine. All right, so yeah, I'm gonna go back to talking about some of these changes with the UA. So, like I said before, aid got changed from 8 hours to instantaneous, which I think is great. Plus, it also got buffed to 6. I think that's a really good change to it. Banishment was changed to being a that the target is sent back to a plane based on its type. So it's not specifically that it's like if it's native to a different plane, it's just that if it's an aberration, celestial, elemental, fey, or fiend, it doesn't return. So that's different. We have talked about Barkskin before. I think the new one is great. Here's that dazed condition again. We're not going to worry about that. Exhausted, fly. Where was the other spell? Guidance. So guidance was a big change, because guidance and resistance, in fact, were both changed. So they are now, whereas before it was 1 action and concentration for both of them, they are now a reaction. So guidance is a reaction when a ally or you fails an ability check, and resistance, which is a little bit further down here, is the same thing when you fail a saving throw. I think that is one of the best quality of life changes they've done to spells in a long time. It is a better version of it. It makes it more useful. Before, the fact that you had to like concentrate on it and it was such a pain. Also, it could be exploited very badly. You could have multiple characters with guidance, all kind of giving one another guidance, or giving like one person guidance. You have like 3d4 that you can add to a roll. I like this one a lot better. It's when you fail it. I think it's great. All right, so down to the light weapon property is still the same. Long rest has just kind of gotten a better explanation. I actually like this. So a long rest is interrupted if there is combat, casting a spell other than a cantrip, and 1 hour of walking or physical exertion. And if a spell was 1 hour before it's interrupted, you at least get a short rest. The fact that combat is now listed as it is, I really prefer that, because in the past, I don't even know if it's going to show up in here. Yeah, chapter 8, resting. Here we go. So whereas before, it was that at least 1 hour of walking, fighting, or casting spells or similar activity would break it. I like the fact that it is now combat, because that means that if your group is out there resting at night and they get ambushed, that breaks it. You get the short rest, you don't get the long rest, because if you could kill those enemies within the hour, everyone's like, well, we still got the long rest. No, it is now, if combat initiates, that breaks the long rest. It is also that, like, you get half of your max, you get half of your hit die back. I've never done that. I've always just done, like, you get all of them back. But I do like the fact that it is, you know, at least more explanatory about how stuff works. This little bit here compared to this right here is better for new DMs, in my opinion. And that's honestly what I see a lot of this for. There's a lot of new stuff in here that is better for DMs, new DMs. All right, Prayer of Healing got an update. So now it is not 6 characters get 2d8 plus your spell casting in healing. It is a number of creatures equal to your spell casting modifier. And those creatures have to remain within your range for 10 minutes. For the whole 10 minutes, and at the end you get the benefits of a short rest and also regain 2d8 healing. You can do this once per long rest. I guarantee you wizards and warlocks will stop at nothing to get the cleric to cast this at least once a day. It's like, hey, I just ran out of my 2 spell slots, you think we can do Prayer of Healing? Like, I could see a warlock being a fiend on that, because that's really powerful. Now, personally, I like the older version because it was more healing, but with the change that was made to aid of upping that from 3 to 6 and making it instantaneous, so it's just always there and it doesn't just run out, I like that. I like that change to it. And we already talked about resistance. Spiritual weapon has changed, and I already brought this up to one of my players. So it is now concentration. I have always felt that it should have been concentration. I always played it by the book, but it is now concentration for spiritual weapon. So that is a thing. And then, yeah, everything else beyond that. Oh, I actually really like that they defined true sight now. So one of the things that has always sucked about 5th edition is when it comes to vision, blind sight was very basic. They can see out to a specific range in normal and magical darkness, see invisible objects and creatures, and automatically detect visual illusions and succeed on saves against them, and perceive the original form. I like that they are breaking this up, and they've done this with a lot of stuff, and I've talked about that, but they're breaking it up now. It's like, okay, you can see darkness. What does that mean? Magical darkness. You can see invisibility, which means you can see invisible creatures and objects, visual illusions, transformations, and you can see into the ethereal plane. I like that this is now organized. This is okay for some. I like that this organization, I like this organization better. In my opinions, this is a better way to categorize your different, you know, instead of just a long sentence or like 2 or 3 sentences, listing stuff out makes it easier to reference, especially if you're trying to jump through a book and find something very specific. So with that said, that brings us to the survey. Now, like I said earlier, I already filled out the survey because it accidentally clicked through. So I filled it out again. I just didn't put any of the words in, but we already talked about a lot of this. So what was your first edition? 5th edition, which I technically did play 3.5, but I don't count that. Did I play test this? No. How do I feel about the cleric overall? I was satisfied. I like some of the changes. There's some, like, the destroy undead thing being gone is weird, but I'm okay with it in general. Yeah, I'm really satisfied with Divine Spark. Channel Divinity, these are, you know, still okay. The Holy Order I like, but they've kind of like taken some stuff away to give you that. Smite Undead, I was dissatisfied with that. I don't like that they changed that. I don't know why subclass feature there was on very sad. Oh, Blessed Strikes, I meant. Blessed Strikes, again, I really like that. I think the Divine Strike or the potent spellcasting was kind of bunk, that it was tied to your subclass. I like that this is just a class feature. Holy Order is what it is. Divine Intervention and Greater Divine Interventions, they're fine. I'm okay with either one of them. Life Domain overall, I already talked about this. I'm very dissatisfied. You know what? I'm gonna put very dissatisfied for Disciple of Life. I like the new domain spells. I think those are good. I think that's a great change. I just don't like that Disciple of Life has changed the way that it has. And beyond that, I don't know why. Yeah, these ones, I'm dissatisfied with how far away they are when you start playing the character. Those are core abilities and they should be sooner. But because we're doing everything as this whole, like, you know, everyone gets your subclass at 3rd level, we're going to have situations like this. I haven't played any of the new Ancestries. Dissatisfied with the Ardling. I just don't know where it's supposed to fit. The Dragonborn has things I like and things I don't, so I'm and the Goliath is kind of the same thing. There's things I like and things I don't. Very dissatisfied with, or not very, but dissatisfied with the Ancestries. I just don't think they know what they're doing. I don't think they know what this Ancestry is supposed to be. The Breath Weapon, again, I'm dissatisfied. I pointed out that if you do a die plus level, it is more powerful on the minimum and average than a level scale. That's just a bad call to make. The damage resistance is good. The Dark Vision, I already put that in my old one. That is very satisfying. And the Draconic Flight is nice. That's just a bonus. I really like the giant lineages. Again, I'm going to use the term lineages. I really like the giant lineage. I think they offer a good variety. It allows a player to take some time and like determine what they want to play. Large form, I'm okay with. I just don't really get why it's there. It just seems out of place in my opinion. And powerful build, I don't like that they took away the resistances. What I actually put whenever I was typing this out is that because they took away the resistances that came with mountain build, they should put, you know, because let's be honest, the original let me pull it up in here. So the original Goliath that was that we had before, it had Mountainborn was cold damage resistance, but it had stone endurance. So Stone's endurance is now one of these ancestry. So that was never taken away from us. We just now have a choice. And then large form was added and Mountainborn was taken away. In my opinion, I would be better if they took away large form and instead gave us back proficiency with athletics, and hell, even give us advantage on strength saving throws against being grappled, and counting as a size larger, but give us resistance. Give fire resistance to a fire giant, give cold resistance to a frost giant, lightning resistance to a storm giant, give us blood, resistance to, like, I don't know, thunder damage for a cloud giant, hill giant, maybe you get something else. I just think with those, you're losing something with them. In here, this is where I said that they talked about these ancestry and lineages. Subtype with type being your creature type, that's just stupid. Okay, that is hands down stupid. If we look at old stuff, your type being Azamar, that doesn't go with stuff like if you're a goblin in the bestiary versus in, a goblin is a humanoid goblin, but a goblin in here, you don't have a type. That's not a thing. Like, you're a humanoid, but you're also a goblin, and that is being added into newer stuff. But what would your race be? Would you be humanoid, or would you be goblinoid, or would you be goblin? Because this is the thing, this is the type. Okay, that's why in here it says type. Undead, well, I have only undead in there, but like, you know, undead, monstrosity, humanoid, giant, fey, fiend, dragons, constructs, celestials, and beasts. Those are all types. So we're not talking of aberrations, we're not talking about types. And subtype, that makes it sound like, so you would be a humanoid goblin. So what would be, if I was playing a dwarf, you know, what's that? You know, if I'm playing a mountain dwarf, is it, you know, that my type is humanoid, my subtype is dwarf, and my subtype is mountain? You know, and kind, I don't like kind. Humankind, elf kind, sure. You know what? You can say that as you can say that as like referring to a whole thing, but to say what are you, you're not going to say, oh, I'm elf kind, I'm humankind. That's referring to a group. What is it when they're half races then? Well, yeah, that's what I mean. Like, I mean, with that, it's like, oh, you know, what's your type? Oh, you know, I'm half elf, half dwarf. You know, that you can still say, but it's like again, I think there's better terms, and I hate species. Species belongs in Spelljammer. Species belongs in sci-fi. It belongs in space. You know, like, what are you? Oh, what's your species? Mon Calamari. You know, okay, cool. What's your species? I'm a Wookiee. That, I think, is where it fits. Ancestry. Who are your ancestors? They're dwarves. That's your ancestry. What's their lineage? Mountain. They come from the mountains. So that's your lineage. I think ancestry and lineage is the right call to make. Do I use feats? Always. How do I feel? I really didn't care about the feats. I don't ever look at the epic boons because no one's ever playing at 20th level. So I just don't care. All right, so like I said, I like the aid spell, the banishment change, guidance and resistance, spiritual weapon. I've always liked the light weapon. Prayer of healing, I put dissatisfied. I will switch that back to satisfied. And then true sight being explained better. I think that is in itself better. Oh, here, part of the attack action. So this was something that was adjusted. So this is more about equipping weapons. This was something that was discussed a bit. But basically they say, as part of your attack action, you can equip or unequip one weapon. So this does stand to reason that if you have a sword and you have a hand crossbow, you know, you can, if you have a great sword, you can attack with that and then unequip it and equip your heavy crossbow and then fire with your second attack. So it's an attack unequip as one attack, and then for each attack, and then your second attack is to equip the heavy crossbow and fire. I like that this has been explained, because I think different DMs did it differently. I always did it as a bonus action, so this is what I'm going to roll with from now on. I don't really care about the whole influence section. I personally feel that the influence action is more suited for newer DMs that do not know how to run social encounters, and it gives them a framework. I think it's good for what it's there for. I just don't care about it. In here, whenever I was putting this, I put in there about ancestry and lineage. I also put hashtag #OneD&D because that's meaningful to me. And then this is just asking me, what's my age? Where am I from? So, but yeah, so that is the Cleric and Species UA survey. It was something that I had been meaning to get to. I know the survey was just put out, but I never really sat down and voiced my thoughts about the third UA, and I wanted to do that. Oh man. So now that that is gone through, we can go ahead and move on to the second topic for today. I guess third, since we talked about the 1D&D stuff. That is the D&D Adventure Club and the One Shot Wonders Kickstarter / product. So, if you're asking yourself out there, what is this D&D Adventure Club? Well, basically what it is it's a $10 a month subscription program that they will send you a small adventure that you can run once a month for. I just repeated my information. Sorry. It's a subscription that basically sends you a small little book once a month for $10 that has an adventure in it. To boil it down further than that would be impossible, because that's what it is. Ted from Nerd Immersion recently put out a video about it. I was very intrigued by it. My niece and nephew, who are 10 and 11 years old, are very interested in D&D and wanting to play. So I bought this as a Christmas gift for them. Basically, I have these being sent to my store, and whenever I get them in, I am going to then let them know that I have the new adventure, and whenever they come over, we'll play it. So to give you an idea about what you can get through this service, basically for that $10 a month, let me say this though, it's $15 a month. There's $5 in shipping. I want to be very apparent about that. I'm not saying that I was like, oh, it's 50% more. I don't care that I have to pay shipping. I think that it should be advertised as $15 a month, because that's actually what it is. So what do you get with it? Well, as it shows on here, you get these little books. You actually can order a set of dice. You get character sheets, you get little maps, and that's everything that you get with the one starter kit. Now, every month it is just one of the books, but if we go into the store, you can see what I'm referring to. So there's the monthly subscription, there is the starter kit, the quick start guide, and the dice. Now, I personally bought the starter kit. That came with the most recent trilogy. The way that this works is every adventure that's put out is part of a small little trilogy, and you get the most recent trilogy, which was the Haunted trilogy, and you get a set of dice, and you get the quick start guide. So I have that all over here on my table. I got the little set of dice, and these are like the barest of bones dice that you would find out there on the internet. They're like, the ones that you spend maybe like $7 or $5 on a set of them, or you buy like a huge pack and you get like 20 sets for $20. But they come in this nice little carrying pouch, which has their logo on it, so that's nice. You get the quick start guide, and this kind of gives you the basics, and I really mean the basics. This is going to give you just a shortest understanding of how to run something resembling D&D. So I obviously can't show you guys like what's exactly in the book, because I don't have a digital version of that. But what it does is it does have it has information about how to read a character sheet. So that is actually really good information that's in here. And when I say character sheet, I do mean the ones that they include in the back. And interesting enough, they actually have those resources on their website. So you can go to the dndadventureclub.com and pull up the characters. So all the characters that have been listed in any of these books are available online for free. So, for example, we'll pull up, here we go, Lyra the Lightbringer. So Lyra the Lightbringer is an elven cleric, and this is the character sheet that is offered in the book. Now, there's nothing really crazy about these character sheets, but it does explain in the book about how the ability scores work. It explains like what STR and DEX stand for, so it actually explains those common nomenclatures that we're very used to. It also explains that, abilities are things, skills or abilities that you're extra good at. It explains about magic. It explains what to hit and damage is. It also explains what armor class is and what hit points are. And it also says what the rules of the GM and the players are. And it does refer to the DM as a GM. So it says on here, the GM describes a scene, the players describe how the characters react, and everyone rolls dice in order to determine what succeeds. So again, these are very basic explanations. It goes into explaining about ability checks and skills. It even gives an example on the side of like a character role-playing through a stealthy encounter. And on the other side, which I actually do like, they put they do have stuff in the margins explaining a bit more. So there's like common ability checks, perception to see into a foggy room, investigation to see if a chest has a trap, stealth to sneak past a guard, constitution to hike for an extra 2 hours, persuasion to get the shopkeeper to come down on a price, and athletics to break down a door. It goes into doing skill checks, and it actually even outlines it. It says, when the game master asks for an ability check, they will say, make an athletics check. In order to succeed this check, the character should roll a 20-sided die and add their bonus for strength unless they have a specific skill the game master mentions. In this case, athletics. If they do, add that bonus to the die roll instead. Now, one thing it does have, in the corner, I don't know if it's going to show it. Yeah, no, it's not. I wish I had a better way of presenting this. I do apologize. But it says, deciphering dice rolls. If the adventure text says to roll 3d6, roll 3 6-sided dice. If it says to roll 2d10, roll 2 10-sided dice. That's honestly something that like I never sat down and thought about. If I looked at somebody who's never played an RPG or like a tabletop RPG, and I said, roll 2d10 for me, they would not know what that means. And I appreciate that this book lists that and explains. If it says to roll 3d6, you know now what that means. Like this character, Scrag Thundersmack. By the way, this is just an orc, not an ogre. When you roll 2d6, that's 2 6-sided dice. I appreciate that that's on there because that's not always explained. So combat, it explains the rules of combat. It goes into detail about what critical hits are and critical misses. It gives examples of how somebody gets advantage on certain checks, like attempting stealth while invisible, roll with advantage. Persuasion check after a player's made a good argument, roll with advantage. What else we got? Examples of disadvantage. Rolling stealth while wearing heavy armor, roll with disadvantage. So, and it goes over in 2 of the columns here about advantage and disadvantage. Goes over in combat about attacking, like how things are supposed to work. And also about healing. And then it goes into the magic. So it explains about cantrips. You can cast it as many times as you want. First and second level spells are set to be cast a certain amount of time. So on this character sheet, it says right there, Command, Guiding Bolt, and Heal Wounds can be cast 3 times per day, and these can be cast as many times as you like. It also explains about attacking with spells, rolling to hit with a spell, and saving throws. So there is a lot of good information in here. It's very boiled down, though, and it's very straightforward. So the next thing you get in this is a very small, really like 2-encounter adventure. And it's called Something is Eating My Cheese. And the basic idea is that an old woman who runs an orphanage needs somebody to go into her basement and kill whatever's eating her cheese. She hasn't been able to go down there. And it outlines on here. And this is, when I say that this boils it down to like really helping a new DM, it says on here, when the adventurers get to the bottom of the stairs and start searching, have them roll a perception check. Each character rolls a 20-sided die and adds their wisdom bonus. If they have perception, have them add that bonus instead. Characters who roll a 14 or lower fail to discover anything out of the ordinary. An adventurer who rolls a 15 or higher discovers a trail of small chunks of half-eaten cheese in the back corner leading to a small door. So unlike other adventures where it would say, you know, to perceive something, the players roll a DC 15 perception check, and it leaves everything up to the player or up to the DM to really elaborate on it. This gives you that elaboration. This gives you a lot of that flavor text that goes along with it. After that, it goes into a small combat encounter, which all the stat blocks are right in the margins. They're super basic. One thing that it actually has that I kind of like is it doesn't give you stuff that you don't need to know. So this tells you that a large hairy rat has a 12 AC, a -2 to saves, because honestly, it doesn't matter. It's either any save, no matter what the save is, it has a -2. It gets a +2 to dexterity, speed of 30 feet, dark vision, bite, +4 to hit, damage 1d4 +2, and it has pack tactics, and it just says a large hairy rat gets advantage on attacks when there is another rat nearby, and then it gives the hit points at the bottom. Now the hit points are listed as 8, 10, and 12. So that means that, you know, these rats have an average of 10 hit points. So it's probably something along the lines of like, you know, 3d6 on, you know, for its hit points. Then there's a large mutant dire rat, which has cheese disease. Anyone bit by the large dire rat needs to make a Constitution saving throw of 13 or higher on a DC on a 12. They need to make this Constitution saving throw of 13 or higher on a 20-sided die, or develop a droopy disease of the muscles, giving them disadvantage on strength rolls until their next long rest. This is what I mean by it explains everything in like excruciating detail when it matters. It says they make a Constitution saving throw of 13 or higher on a 20-sided die. This way, it is clear, it's understandable, because this obviously isn't going to explain what's in the PHB, explaining that checks and rolls and all that are always made with 20s. And then lastly, it's the victory. It's just kind of like explaining, you know, if they succeed and they kill the rats, you know, this is what happens after. It gets some flavor text, and then it jumps into the characters. So the 3 characters that this book offers is Lyra Lightbringer, who I have up on the screen here. And then you have Thistle Greystride, who's an Elven Ranger, and Scrag Thundersmack, who's an Orc Barbarian. I've looked these characters over multiple times. They are 100% based off of actual 5th edition compatible material. Everything within them that you could make, or everything within them could be made on D&D Beyond, which I think is a huge improvement and a great quality of life feature about this compared to other things, where it's like when I played Hero Kids with my niece and nephew before, none of that was related to D&D. It was a different system. Characters were designed differently. So with this is all based on the 5th edition ecosystem, and it works. You know, and they kind of flavor some things here and there. So for example, Lyra Lightbringer says that she's an elven cleric. It doesn't say specifically what, but it does give her the capabilities that make sense. So for example, Burning Light of the Dragon, Lyra's eyes project bright light like a flashlight. Well, that's probably just this. It's probably just the light cantrip. Also, it might also be Warding Flare and just kind of like a different version of it. But Flames of the Dragon, where you can blast out a 30-foot, you can blast out 30 feet and deal 2d10 damage. That's Radiance of Dawn. There's a little bit more damage that comes along with this. And this is also a con save instead of in here where it's a dex save. But everything in here, you could make all these characters on D&D Beyond. And I've pulled up a couple of them. This is a character that is in one of the 3 other books. I believe he's the one you get in Crag Manor, if I'm not mistaken. Yep. Peter. And that's another thing. So the starter kit, this quick start guide gives you 3 characters, and then every adventure from there gives you 1 character. So I just pulled up a couple, I was looking at them earlier. But I really like how they are taking what is in 5th edition, boiling it down to be very digestible to new players and very much to kids, because that is one thing that I cannot stress enough about this. When you look at these characters that it offers, these are mostly geared towards kids. And it even says in their FAQ that this is designed for middle readers, ages 8 to 12 and up. So like that is their core audience. These books are written with like G-rated material. There's nothing crazy and over the top and grotesque. So it is designed for kids. Yes, Aaron. So it's designed for you. It is designed for kids. It's designed to introduce kids to D&D. One of the other nice things about this, though, because it is introducing it to kids, all the spells that are available to characters are written in simple language. So, for example, it's not something, it's not something like, let's take it on here. Sacred Flame. So Sacred Flame, when you would read this, like this is how it's formatted for normal play. You have your casting time, your range, your components, your duration, and then you have the description of the spell, and then you have what needs to happen and the damage type. Sacred Flame on here just says Lyra's target makes a dex save of 14 or higher or takes 1d8 fire damage. That's it. It's very simple, very basic. It doesn't give you a range because it kind of assumes that you're gonna be within that 60 feet. Same with something like Guiding Bolt. So Guiding Bolt is 120 feet, and it's just that make a spell attack. So a shimmering bolt of light strikes a target. Roll to hit with a +6 and do 46 damage. The next attack has advantage. It's all plain text understanding. And some I only found out today on the website, they offer blank character sheets. So you can actually make your own. You can revise the character and roll your own stats and stuff like that. Honestly, I don't mind this character. I kind of like this +1 dragon staff. It's a mace, which doesn't make sense to me. This should be a quarterstaff. Another thing that I really liked about these character sheets, especially with this character, he has True Strike. And when I saw that, I shivered. But when I looked at it, casting this spell gives Peter advantage on his attacks or spells for the next 5 turns. Now, if you know me, you know that I personally hate True Strike. It is a garbage spell. It has sucked since the day that it's been introduced because, as you know, it is a full action, concentration, and it just gives you advantage on your first attack roll. So that means you're burning a spell slot. I mean, you're not burning a spell slot, but you're burning an action, having to concentrate, and you get advantage on your next attack. Why not just attack twice? This is phenomenally better. It's a full action. This system does not differentiate between actions and bonus actions. You get your action. That is it. You can either cast a spell, you can attack, you can use an ability, but that is it. There is no action, bonus action, reaction. It is just actions. So True Strike giving you advantage for the next 5 turns, I'm probably going to make that on D&D Beyond one night. Just, making it better, kind of like True Strike, but it doesn't suck. But I'll probably call it like, True Strike, AC for Adventurers Club, because I think it's great. So, like I said, I really like this. Something else that the website also offers is the maps that they use. So this is actually the map from the quick start guide. There's something about the cheese. So these are where the tokens are. And honestly, these aren't bad little maps. This is actually the one that comes in the next adventure, the Skeleton Curse. Just the action. Well, that's the thing. That really doesn't translate. That does kind of translate because it doesn't give you abilities that use bonus actions. It's just giving you abilities that use full actions, which I think is better because it makes it easier to understand. When it's time to teach these kids, about full-scale D&D, then that right there is going to be when you say, like, hey, you now get bonus actions, you now get reactions. Do you have a like to show? Do I have a like to show this off? Oh, a link? Is that what you mean? Are you saying a link? Because I think Stacy already put that in there. Yeah. So like I said, it offers maps. Honestly, they're not bad little maps. They're very basic. It's definitely not the kind of maps that I use. And that's actually something that I really want to establish with this. These are meant for theater of the mind more than anything. These are meant for kids where you're sitting around a table, you have like 1 or 2 sets of dice, and you are, telling this story together with them. You're not worrying about tokens. You're not worrying about huge areas of movement. These are meant more for theater of the mind. And honestly, when I first got these books, I was looking through them and I wasn't that impressed, but actually sitting down with them, having a chance to read through each one, they're not bad. Again, they are designed for kids. There is somebody that this is meant for. So I'm not going to get into each one of these. I don't want to do a disservice to this group, to like go on and on about like every single one of these, because I honestly do think this is a good resource if you have young kids that you want to introduce to D&D. But so every book that you get has a small adventure in it. One of the cool things, the very first page is a little tips and tricks. This one's about exploring darkness and dark vision, so it gives a little bit more information than the quick start guide. But then this goes into various things. It goes into the little adventure, so it gives you some flavor text that you're supposed to read aloud to your players. It gives a social encounter. And one of the things that I really like about this, especially for new players and new DMs, it says on here, So the core concept behind this, this is called the Skeleton Curse, and it has a little skeleton puppy on it. One of the characters that the players interact with, their dog, went into this cave underneath Crag Manor and has not come out. Spoiler warning, it's now a skeleton. But if the players, when the players find this out, they can ask around town about Crag Manor. And it says on here to have them roll persuasion or investigation. And if they roll, and then depending on what they roll, it gives 4 options. So a 10 or higher, they overhear general gossip about the manor. A 12 or higher, they hear a rumor that a caravan coming up the river is 3 days late. 16 or higher reveals that Marge, the barge woman, used to camp at the manor. And 18 or higher, the players get a distinct feeling that the guy who is missing his dog is hiding something. So this gives you each one of those steps, whereas in most D&D stuff, that's really up to the DM to decide, like, okay, how much information am I going to give to these players? About how long are each of the books? I would probably say if you ran each of these books, they would probably be about an hour long. In fact, they actually list that on the website. Where was it? Does it? No. How long is each adventure? Yeah, there you go. It's about an hour. Now, personally, the only downside to this is that I think an hour is okay. Like, is this a one-shot? This is basically, I would probably say, if for kids with their attention span, this could be a one-shot. And kind of the point that I was going to get at, the thing that this does that I'm not a huge fan of, and this is just in general with a subscription service, is that this is supposed to be a part of a trilogy. So each one of these books, you know, one comes after the other, but this book ends right as the players are getting into a mystery about what is going, the Skeleton Curse, as the title says, and right there it kind of ends. Like, the players are embroiled in this small little mystery, and then it's like, okay, now we have to close this book and wait 30 days to play again. And maybe for some, once a month is all they have. Maybe that 1 hour a month is all that they can get. I would honestly like to run these 3 for my niece and nephew all together at once. Value for money, 1 hour once a month. Yeah, that's the thing. Now, but I think where you can work with this is expanding each section. And that takes away from what this book is supposed to be and turns it into more of something like one-shot wonders, which I'm going to get to in a minute. If I was wanting to run these for somebody, for like a group, and actually get the worth out of it more than an hour per month, I would expand each of these encounters that's in here. So the first one is meeting the quest giver and asking around town. You can make that take a while. You can have them going up to different NPCs. Maybe they have to search around. Maybe people are weird about stuff and they won't give you the information. So that role playing, instead of just boiling it down to persuasion or investigation check, maybe you make your players actually go around a map with a town and start talking to people. Maybe somebody tells them, like, hey, I'll tell you about it, but like, can you go and do this thing for me? When they're traveling to Crag Manor, it says that it's a 4-hour journey, or they can buy a big canoe for 50 gold, or hire the Sarge the bargeman for 25 gold. That journey up the river could take an hour, And in that hour, you can have an encounter. Maybe there's spiders, a giant spider web that's stretching across the river. Maybe there's crocodiles. Maybe there's bandits. Again, you can kind of play that up as you go along. When your players get to this point right here, it actually says that it's 70 feet across, which I think that's from like here all the way into there, which makes more sense. So you can have like quippers or crabs. You could have quippers or crabs or snakes or crocodiles in there to make it more of a challenge. Maybe you make it that there's a heavy current, so heavy characters wearing heavy armor can't really, swim through it, or you have to make athletics checks. Then you come across the puppy, who is now a skeleton. So maybe you make the puppy like running around and the players have to catch it. Then you find what is Marge the Barge Woman, and there's some stuff that goes along with her. You're now laying the seeds for the curse, but maybe there's again some encounter that needs to happen. It gives a stat block for Marge the Skeleton, so maybe combat occurs. Then when the players get inside of the old cellar, there are 4 skeletons and a bandit captain skeleton, so combat can proceed. But again, you can just really drum up anything you want to go along with this. I just don't think that that's the way it's meant to be run by the designers, because it's meant to be an introduction thing. And I think that's where it suffers, for somebody like me. If I were to, compare it to something like One Shot Wonders, this is just really not a lot. Again, it's meant to be for a kid. It's meant to be an hour. And then you're supposed to, wait a month to get the next one. So one of my things that I have to like sit here and grapple with is, should you wait 3 months to run this little, adventure? Now, on the website, you can go in and you can actually buy, previous trilogies, so you can buy the older books and run those as well. Granted, they are in PDF form for the most part, but that's something that you can do. You can go back and you can play the older adventures. I don't know if having 1 hour a month is a value. But I won't know this until I actually sit down with my niece and nephew and try this. I do have what is going to be the next trilogy, an unexpected treasure, which I read through. It's just, okay. So that's my review. That's my general discussion about the D&D Adventure Club. It explains. The quick start guide explains the basics of D&D, and it would help someone get a very baseline understanding. The characters are boiled down enough to be easy for new players to understand the concepts of what they can and can't do. I do actually want to point out one thing, though. So you see this elf ranger, Thistle? She has elven stamina, which is advantage on charms against sleep, or its advantage to charms and sleeps. We all know that is just the elven ancestry. That's the Fey ancestry that all elves get. Advantage against being charmed, and you can't be put to sleep. Lyra is also an elf, does not get that. Says nowhere on her character sheet that she gets that. Technically she would, but it doesn't list that. So that's one of those things where, like, somebody like me, who I know this stuff, is that going to cause this to be an issue? Who knows? 1 hour play seems too low for $15, but also, yeah. And I think that's the thing. It is very much a teaching tool. I think it's really meant to just be something that you can put down in front of a group of kids to introduce them to the concepts and let that be that. I don't think this is meant to really like be this huge, you know, these huge sprawling quests. Again, I think it's like, you know, maybe a couple times a month. Maybe you run it multiple times. But for $1, for $15 a month for an hour adventure, you really have to kind of do a lot of your own work to get the value out of it. I wonder, asked, it absolutely does not discuss character creation. The concept of this is that you use the characters that are in here. There is not a point that explains how to roll stats, what skills you can take, what races and classes there are. You just get what the books give you. If you don't want to play as an elven cleric, an orc barbarian, or an elven ranger in the quick start guide, you're fucked. That's just it. Like, these are the characters that it offers you, and they're not bad characters. You know, it's just they're super basic. Let's see who we got here. Human paladin. Okay, so all right, not bad. Very simple, understandable. Yep, 2 spells. We got Nathan. He's actually in the Haunted trilogy, so I've already read through his stuff. And Blip Eliwick, she's actually in the most recent one that was put out. So, like, you are playing as one of these, and this down here, this you would have to go into the PHB and actually do stuff. But I want to be clear, they explain this stuff. Okay, so it goes in to talk about, you know, like it says, our goal with the Quick Start Guide is to streamline the 1,200 pages of official D&D rules into a simple, straightforward, easy to follow 16 pages. Can you level up your characters? Yes, but you have to get the PHB or the starter kit. So, you know, can you use your own characters? Yeah, absolutely. You know, all these adventures though are really meant for first, second, and third level characters. So you're not really going to be playing much beyond that, which I think is based into that, like, each one of them's an hour long. But check out their website. Check out this particular section. If you do have questions, I'm going to post it here in the chat. dndadventureclub.com/FAQ. It has the information that most of you will need. Again, I honestly kind of like these little maps. I think this one's pretty okay. I like the isometrics perspective on this. And again, none of this is meant to really be like with tokens. This is all supposed to be theater of the mind. So I think this works for what they're doing. Now, in comparison to this, we're going to talk about One-Shot Wonders. So One-Shot Wonders is a Kickstarter that's going on right now. It's already been closed, but you can do a late pledge. So I'm going to link that up there in the chat for the Kickstarter. You can do a late pledge in order to get a copy of this. But if you go to their Kickstarter, one of the things that they have on here is these preview sessions. And these will kind of give you an idea about how this is run. Now, this is also from rollandplaypress.com. Again, I'm going to link out to that. They have a lot of stuff. I've looked through their stuff before. It's nothing that I would personally buy. But when I first saw that they were doing One-Shot Wonders, one of the people I follow on YouTube was talking about it. I was curious about it. I looked into it, and I like the design of what it is. Very straightforward 2-page one-shot adventures. So I want to say, in comparison, where D&D Adventure Club is meant for new DMs, new players who just want a taste of what D&D is like, One-Shot Wonders is meant for DMs that are okay taking a good framework of a one-shot and expanding on that. And why I say it that way is because while I think that any new DM can take this information and run something, these are very much designed to just be the core essence of what you need for these one-shots. And it's actually why I signed up for the Kickstarter, because these are the kind of things that I live for. Things that are already more or less structured. You just have to do the rest of the legwork. You have to add the details, and you have to figure out the little bits and pieces of it. So with one-shot wonders, each one of them is kind of set up in a similar fashion. You have a basic idea, you have your name, and then they give these 3 different categories. So this one, A Rude Awakening, deals with monster hunting, traps, and exploration. Fishy Business is a magical themed adventure that deals with sabotage and conflict resolution. And Making a Scene is a comedy themed one shot based on party meeting and social encounters. So I like that they offer those, because that gives you a very simple look at what you're dealing with. And then it gives a super short 2-sentence explanation of what the core adventure is. The Gundolin Company's volcano mine has been evacuated, and rumors are spreading that a powerful beast dwells within. Brave adventurers have been requisitioned to remove the threat before the corporation's reputation burns to cinders. So there you go. That in itself would be a sentence in a list of like one-shot adventures. You could have that in there. I like, though, that this elaborates more on it. So you have some flavor text to read to your players. You have an explanation of why what's going on is going on. You have the important characters, which I like are detailed enough to give you something to work with, but are limited enough to allow the DM room to make these characters their own. When I was reading Yursen Gundolin and Jesme Amberly, I read, an elderly CEO, anxious to maintain his reputation, who wears golden rings and a glistening breastplate. That's somebody who has never seen the inside of a cave. And Jesme, it's his job to make sure the miners deliver the best results. So this is a manager wearing with a finely coiffed mustache and neatly pressed pants and shirt. Again, somebody who's never gone in. I've already built the personality in my head. We're going to have kind of posh, snuck up, snooty kinds of characters that are a little bit more removed from what's actually going on in the mine. Then you have the story structure. This is giving you the actual rundown of the main core components of it, the main scenes that are going on. So a heated hike. The players are going up to the cave. They're climbing through the mine shaft, which has lava stepping stones, toxic smoke, and frail bridges. Let me zoom in on there a bit. And rubble blocks a tunnel ahead, and the party has to dig their way through the rocks. And as they begin, fire elemental and magma methods climb out of the pool and attack them. So right here, you have multiple scenes. You have the players climbing the mountain. You have them exploring around the cave, dealing with environmental hazards, and then you have a skill check, digging through the rubble, as well as combat. After that, you have the players going into the lair, having to fight the dragon, and then the dragon busting through the mountain wall and flying down to attack the camp. And then your players have to chase after them, and then they have to make sure that they kill the dragon before these 2 characters are killed. After that, we have the key locations. These are the maps that you as the DM need to get. If you use a map, or you need to get good explanations and descriptions about these. So I went through some of the maps that I have available, just ones that I've purchased over the years. I have a simple miner's camp that has covered in ash that looks like thick gray snow, because I have a winter camp, or a winter mountain camp map. It would work perfect for this. I have volcanic mineshaft maps, and I can add simple traps here and there. It said lava stepping stones. I have ones with lava trails going through them. Super easy to like drop a rock or two in there and have the players have to bounce across them. Maybe you have lava, like magma chutes hitting your players, taking fire damage. And then having a simple lair that the dragon is in, you know, basic inside cave, put like a ring of lava around it, some gold, and let that be that. You know, it'd be easy enough to find these online, whether you have to, you know, whether you download them, whether you make them yourself, or if you go out and buy them. You know, getting those maps would not be difficult. And then you have the secrets and clues. So this is really helping you flesh out those social encounters that you can play up. So some of the miners think a fire giant lives in there. Others think it's a fiend or a chimera. The Gundolin company's profits are down, so they're trying to expand the operation. The previous group of mercenaries warned them to stop digging. Despite being in charge of the mine, Yersin has never gone into the mine himself. The local druids call the volcano Zegrid's Nust, which is translated to the dragon's nest, and Zegrid has been hibernating for 10 years after a battle with a druidic circle. So these are things that when your players are, if you built this up as like, you know, your players were hired on to do this, they can have these social encounters with Yersin and with Jesme, with some of the miners. You know, maybe they hear some of the miners chatting when they're, you know, standing there at rest, and, you know, that's like, well, I heard that it was a fire giant. Well, really? I heard it was a chimera. And then you see like another dwarf comes up, like, you're both wrong. It's a devil in there. Something like that. Maybe even having it where you have a scene where the players are heading up to the mine, and there's maybe a protest going on, you know, in front of the miners, in front of the mining camp, of a bunch of druids that are chanting in Druidic. And if one of your players knows Druidic, they can hear them shouting, you know, leave Zegrid's nest, leave the dragon's nest alone. These are things that you can play up in there. And lastly, or not actually lastly, there's two more things. So next, it explains that this is for characters level 7 to 8, and it gives you this wonderful little piece of information. If you want to make it easier, make it a dragon wormling and remove the fire elemental. You want to make it harder, make him an adult dragon and increase the enemies in the tunnels. Like, this is simple information that most DMs who already structure encounters know, but this is nice to include in here. And they do this with each one. Like, if you want to make, you know, fishy business harder or easier, you can change things up. Being that this is a one-shot, you know, quest rewards are always kind of irrelevant. The end of the adventure, you're just kind of walking away from the characters in a lot of cases, unless you're playing a series of one-shots. Or, if in my case, you're buying this to throw in to your existing encounters. This is a perfect adventure to just run your players through if they want a side quest, if they want a small adventure. Okay, one of your players wants some kind of, you know, wants something from someone else, you know, and they're looking to make some money, or they heard that you know, that Yersin, that the CEO of the Gundolin company, is offering an adamantine breastplate for the investigation and removal of a beast in a mountain. Like, this in itself is why I would run this. You know, throwing in a quest item that ties into it. On this one, a player can take the Wand of Polymorph from Firth. It has 0 charges left today. Also, you get a pouch of pearls around her neck, so they can, you know, they can be worth something. And then this one, making a scene. So with this one, this is less of like a quest. This is more of like a fun social encounter. That's actually kind of the nice thing about this. But what the last thing actually that I want to point out is I love down here at the bottom this storyline. This is one of the nicest features that I've seen in a book like this. So these are your encounters. Social, talk to the operations team. That's talking to the CEO, the head of operations, the miners, the protesting druids. This is your social encounter. Entering the mines, that's your exploration encounter. Going through, dealing with the traps. Then combat encounter, the elemental attack. Then the dragon's cave, digging into it. Okay, then having to rush back to camp. Maybe make that a skill challenge. You're having to dash back. You're running down an ash covered mountain. Maybe you slip, you fall, you twist an ankle. Now you're moving at half speed. And then the battle with the dragon. These are the 6 encounters around this adventure, and they do the same thing with Fishy Business. So Fishy Business is a meal at the most popular dining spot in town takes a bizarre turn when the chef reports that his ingredients have started fighting back. Plucky diners must intervene to stop the chaos that ensues. Again, I'm not, you can read this yourself. I'm not going to go into crazy detail about it, but basically, there's a place that opened up in town known as the Goblin Hob, and one of the workers there is trying to sabotage it. So they have aligned with a sea hag to turn fishermen into animals that are then being fed to the patrons. And when they're killed, they essentially turn back into the humans. But it's structured very similarly. It has the flavor text, it has the important characters, the structure of it. Both of them have these little quick stats, which I actually find really nice. That if you just need AC, initiative, and hit points, perfect. You can make up the rest if that's the kind of DM you are. You have your key locations, you have your secrets and clues, your quest rewards, and your levels that it's meant for. Drop into a campaign or inspiration for when players come up with some idea. Yeah, that's exactly it. When players come up with with something that they want to do, this is a great thing to take inspiration from. All that in just those 2 pages, it feels like, well, that's the thing. That's actually why I really like this. This could be a one shot. You could make this multiple sessions. Maybe not multiple, maybe 2 sessions at most. But this would be really good to throw at your players as a quest in a fuller adventure, in a fuller campaign. Maybe it's 2 sessions. You know, maybe your players get there and maybe you have a big dungeon. Maybe the mine is, you know, kind of the cornerstone of it. Instead of it just being a few tunnels, maybe you have it where they have to really dig in. Maybe you add more encounters. Maybe you make other spaces in the tunnels where treasure has been hoarded. You can really do a lot with this. Maybe you don't want them to fight down at the mine or at the miners camp again. Maybe the dragon escapes the lair and flies back to town, and the players now have to race back to town in order to stop the dragon from attacking. Or maybe it gets down to the mine or to the miners camp. The players attack it a little, and then the thing flies off to town, or it goes and screws off somewhere else. Now guess what? There's now a red dragon on the loose. Lucas length 1 shots. Yeah, 2 shots. 2 shots. That's exactly it. So, and then honestly, and I will admit, this making a scene one, I'm not too crazy about it. Basically, the performers of this show get sick, and the players are asked to basically become not only the crew but the entertainment. And there's like little things that go on, like they have to fix some plumbing, they smell burning, a monkey escapes, a baboon gets on the loose and starts to attack the mayor. It's definitely more meant to be like a humorous one. Can we just play this that you described in P5? Possibly. I honestly might throw a Rude Awakening into P5 at some point. It does have a red dragon. You guys do have to fight a red dragon at some point. But like, this one I'm not too crazy about. It's just not really my thing. You know, I don't mind some social encounters. I feel like this is for a very specific kind of group. And yeah, something like this, you know, this is for levels 1 to 2. You can make it harder by having a ghost be the source of everything. And you can make it even harder by an assassin trying to kill somebody. I do like, though, that this one offers the map. That is the one thing that I will admit. I like that this one has the map already in there. I understand them not being able to put in maps for everything. That's fully, that is totally respectful. I just like that one already has the map instead of being reliant on gathering your own. Now, the whole purpose of me discussing this was to give it a little bit of a comparison to the D&D Adventure Club. And I think between the two of them, my opinion is this: if you are a new DM that is brand new to the system, does not know, you know, what ability checks are, doesn't know what saves are, but you've heard about D&D and you want to jump into it, get the D&D Adventure Club Quick Start Guide. Let that be a very basic understanding of just the core concepts of why you're needing to roll dice. Get the PHB, get the DMG, maybe grab the Monster Manual or Volo's Guide, or you can't get Volo's Guide, but you know, Morton Connon's Monsters of the Multiverse. Pick those up, get the starter kit, okay? But use this to at least give you the base understanding of why you're rolling dice and what you need to roll dice for. From there, jump into those bigger books, okay? Understand how to help somebody make character. That's super important, because unless you plan on having your players play these characters, you need to know how to make a character. And if you want to just, again, want that super simple, very straightforward experience, use the characters that are in here. Get the starter kit, get the starter kit. You got a couple characters. You have a warlock, you have a, two barbarians, actually. You have a wizard, a cleric, and a ranger. So you have a good set of characters to pick from. And especially, and learn not to roll. Yeah, well, that's, believe me, I knew the difference between a D12 and a D20. I just, couldn't see the difference between them. But also, D&D Adventure Club is meant for kids. It's designed for kids. It's G-rated. There's nothing crazy. There's nothing over the top or gross or gory about it. It is meant to be designed for G-rated content. And if you're okay with that, awesome. If you want to crank it up, elaborate. Play into stuff. Make things the way that you want it, if that's what you want to do. Again, I think if you have a group of kids that are interested in D&D, this is 100% what you need. If you're new to D&D and you have never rolled the dice and just don't know what you're doing, pick up this quick start, this quick start guide. On the other hand, One Shot Wonders is meant for somebody familiar with D&D that knows how to take a basic quest structure and expand upon it. Okay? One Shot Wonders, in my opinion, as for players, I think any player would be happy running One Shot Wonders, since there's options and there's different kinds of encounters that can be written into a large campaign or ran as a one-shot. It is also really good for DMs because it gives you the structure that you need to run off of. There are a lot of DMs out there, like myself, that use this kind of content to really bulk out campaigns. Okay? If you're somebody like me who runs a lot of modules, that's how you work with them. You take what they give you and you fit it into what you're running. That's exactly what One Shot Wonders is doing. They're taking a very simple concept and giving you the freedom to elaborate on it. But it's giving you enough that you don't have to kill yourself about figuring out everything. That's why I really like this. So yeah, if you are wanting to really stretch your DM legs, this is a great concept. If you're a DM out there who knows, or if you're a D&D player who knows the core rules, the core concepts, and you want to try DMing, there would be an adventure in One Shot Wonders more for you, depending on what you're looking for, because it gives you enough to get running. You just need to get the details. Again, I would run a Root Awakening 100%. Like, if I had the availability, I could get this adventure set up in a day, because all I need is 3 maps. I need level 7 characters, and I'm set. That's really all I need, because I, as a DM, could improvise 90% of this because I have this story structure in front of me. I have these characters. I have flavor text. I have all of this. This gives me the opportunity to have more freedom in the choices that I have to make, rather than the choices I would need to if I didn't have this. I'd have to spend a lot more time prepping. And that's actually why I backed this. When I first heard about this, I was like, shit, this is going to cut down my prep time. That's all I care about. I have shit going on in my life, and I don't have 20 hours to prep an encounter. Something like this, I can read this and have an encounter put together in, say, 2 hours. Maps and all. That's my opinion. If you're new to D&D and you got kids that want to try it, D&D Adventure Club. If you're familiar with D&D and you want to try your hand at DMing, or you want to take a little bit of that pressure off as the DM already, One Shot Wonders, 100%. You're answering question I was about to ask, if not new to D&D, but yeah, I think that is the case. It gives you enough that you can sit down with this and say, okay, what am I doing? Okay. As you read through this, you can write your own notes based off what you need to do. All right. With this today's special, this has an octopus, 3 octopuses, and 4 giant crab encounter. So you need these 3 locations. You need an interior of some kind of restaurant, and you need a ship that has a top and a bottom. These are your encounters. 3 octopus crabs. Where is it? Here it is. The lair, you have to fight a hag, and there are some minions there. What are the minions? Sahuagin. Right here in the quick stats. These are your monsters. Sea hag, Sahuagin, commoners. And honestly, if you use D&D Beyond, or you use third-party resources like I use, you can very quickly look up a sea hag and a Sahuagin, and guess what? There's your stat blocks. There's everything you need. You don't need to worry about anything else, because it's super simple to pull that up. And again, even if you don't use third-party resources like I do, if you go to D&D Beyond and go to this encounter builder in here, Sea Hag, add it. Add your Sahuagins. Sweet. There you go. There's your encounter. Base it off of 4 players of level 3. Okay. Maybe you're introducing a group to D&D. You make them all make level 3 characters. There's 4 of them. Guess what? That's a deadly encounter. They better be fucking prepared. And then, you got something like that. You got, what is it? 3 octopuses. Let's, there we go. We got 3 octopuses, and we got giant crabs. Was that 4 of them? Yeah, 4 of them. There you go. There you go. There's your encounter. Now all you need is 2 maps, really, and that's it. Again, you can, this is something that, as long as you can source your maps, know where to get your information, know where to get your stat blocks. And the bottom line here is, even if you don't have a ton of stat blocks, you don't need them. This gives you the AC and the hit points, okay? You don't need to know every detail about an octopus to run them. What do you need? You need some damage. Roll a d6 to see what its attack bonus is, okay? Or not its attack bonus, but like its tentacle attack, okay? But use the resources you have with this, and you can make encounters very fast. So definitely check this out. I know I've kind of like rambled on about this, but check out One Shot Wonders. They're available on Kickstarter right now for late pledges. You can also go check out their other stuff. Some of this other stuff might interest you. But yeah, between the two of them, there's room for both at any table. I just think that if you are very brand new and are introducing kids to the game, this is if you've already been playing the game for a while and you either need some new, fresh content to help you up, or if you want to try DMing for the first time and you already know the basic core roles, One Shot D&D, or One Shot Wonders. Which One Shot Wonders was finished? Yeah, well, unfortunately it's not. It's not going to be ready till October. So that's a thing. But there's always time. There's always other things out there, so... but with that, this stream's been going on for 3 hours. We talked a lot today. We did the cleric and species UA, filled out the survey. We talked with Enforcer was here a little bit earlier. We talked about his character, and then we discussed D&D Adventure Club and One Shot Wonders. So this was an interesting little chat. And if you are interested in either of these, I'm going to go ahead and link out to them here in the chat one more time. Also, as I said in the very beginning of all this, the reason why down there in the very bottom corner of this screen the whole time, OpenD&D. Be aware, Wizards of the Coast is wanting to make this kind of content less accessible with their money-hungry practices. As much as this might be fear-mongering, and there's a lot of people out there that are saying the community is overreacting to this, I just want this to stand as a reminder that the reason why D&D has exploded in popularity over the past 8 years since 5th edition was announced is because of the reinstatement of the OGL, the Open Gaming License. It is because of that you have people like Kobold Press, Matt Covild's, MCDM, Monkey DM, or Morvold Maps, Morvold Press. The reason why they are able to put out referenced material for D&D is because of the standing Open Gaming License that was established by Wizards of the Coast back in 2000. It is a persistent, permanent license that cannot be revoked, but it can be changed, it can be redone, and it can be imposed if you accept the new terms. And unfortunately, a lot of the new terms are very financially predatory. Again, I've listed out the links in the chat. They are very early on in here, but I am going to re-link to them before I close out tonight, because I want to make sure that everyone is aware of those, because they are vastly important. So let me just pull these back up again. So this is the link right here for the D&D Beyond OGL and SRD explanation that the staff put out. This is the video by Michael Shea from Sly Flourish, who was talking about how the OGL is supposed to work and how it has worked and the stuff that they are changing with it. This is actually a continuing article by Michael Shea, who is going to continue updating that for the information that is presented on the OGL. And lastly, from a content creator known as Rule of Law, who is a D&D player and lawyer, this is a video he did explaining how the new OGL is very predatory and basically a cash grab for Wizards of the Coast. I don't know a lot about the legal aspects, and he actually gives a good explanation of it. So please check out their material. This is very important because this is our community. This is a game that we have fostered over the years, and we want to continue doing that. But it'll be much harder if Wizards is, imposing certain restrictions on what can and cannot be done based on their open gaming license and the fact that they may change it in time, and depending on how it's worded, it could get bad. So but thank you all for watching. No, actually, I was not following Rule of Law. I actually only saw one of his videos once before, but he kind of came up whenever I was when the OGL really hit the fan. So but I have been following him since. But yeah, definitely check them out. So I am appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Thank you very much for that. Another episode of Lo-Fi and D&D, working on some things and discussing some products that are out there for the community. So thank you so much for hanging out. As always, I'm your friendly neighborhood Dungeon Master Lucas, and I will see you guys next time here in the tavern. And remember, #OpenD&D.